Okay, welcome everybody. Here is Harri Suutarinen speaking, and for today's webinar, the main host for our webinar, Hrvoje Zmajik, is almost familiar to all of our participants today, and actually this is our first webinar what we are hosting with Hrvoje. And today's topic is developing 10 and under kids tennis and their level of play. During early ages, players move through several levels of the game, and each stage is described by a specific set of playing competencies. Player has achieved certain level of game when he or she is able to apply the playing competencies to the match situation. Playing competencies are based on the combination of mental, tactical, technical, and motor skills. Behind of this work is Hrvoje Zmajik, and we would like to thank from the Federation side you for the huge effort for the Finnish tennis development. You described good for me that every under 10 child should have right to dream to become a professional player. I think our roles as a tennis coaches, when we can encourage kids and their families for the total amount of sports and tennis, but mostly we can affect for the quality of tennis training in the daily basis. These playing competencies offer a great way for what to learn and what things to look for in early ages. We have to first take care in kids tennis quality for tennis as a hobby and for healthy lifestyle. But we have to also take care and develop our actions that kids have really right to dream for tennis as a profession. With these words, Mr. Zmajik, stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Thank you for nice words and a nice introduction. I will just make a few words from my side before changing to my presentation. And yep, I'm still waiting for perhaps one or two people to join us, as I have to admit them as a host of this webinar. Now, I feel that we are 36 here, and one more is coming. So, thank you all for joining me today, and being interested in actually improving your understanding and knowledge of developing young kids' game. Now I'm moving to my presentation, and I hope we will not more people asking for being admitted. Okay, so it's a big task actually to talk about developing 10 and under players game, as actually it can be compared with organizing a tour to Europe for Japanese tourists inside 1 week. Yeah, actually to visit so many things, and then obviously to forget the things that can be like this one you see in front of you that are forgotten and still very, very important. So for this webinar today, that will take around 1 hour, I just pick up some objectives that I will talk about. First of all, I would like to share with you my vision about the 10 and under game development pathway. Then I would like to share with you some key playing competencies at each level of the game development. And also we will talk about the relevant skills, but mostly I will focus on the skills that have to be developed at particular level of the game for the future. You will see that actually if I would talk about all the important skills, it would take us much more time. I will come to this in a minute. So let's start with the game development pathway. So the first level of the game I call cooperative rally, and when the kids now start early, about 4 or 5 years of age, they actually are able to do that very quickly with this new equipment, big balls, and very often from this rolling or floor tennis, they are moving to what they call bouncing tennis when the ball starts to bounce. Then by the next level, that's coming very soon, it's around 5, 6 for the talented kids, they're able to play over the net and start to play points with very simple tactics to bring one more ball back into the court in order to win the point. At this level, the kids already value the score. They can understand the importance of hitting balls back and forth and enjoying the game. You'll see now when the game is coming, she's not happy. Okay, so the next level is still actually reached by the kids at the same small court. We call it also red court. But here, actually, the players are already playing with very different quality. They're namely able to direct the balls away from the opponent. And because of that, I call it playing away. Of course, what we see here at this video is not actually achieved by every player, but actually it's important to keep the players on this court and improve the level of the game and playing quality. Now, this is something what is more often seen and can be achieved by players that are perhaps playing in the groups. They're not playing, let's say, so much if you are playing, but if you are playing, let's say 3 times per week, you can reach that level around 7.5 years old. And that's already quite a good level in the red court. So one more time, one more point, playing away, that means that players are able to see the opponent and actually direct the ball away from him in order to win the point, to make him move. Yeah. Now, the next level of the game is very interesting for me, and actually, I call it using open space. This is the video from a very good friend of mine from Austria, and these are some of the best 9-year-old players, under 9-year-old players in Austria 2-3 years ago. And here, the big difference between this level and the previous one, that players can already actually plan ahead. So they know exactly why they play a cross-court shot in one corner in order to open the space at the other side and even finish the point. At the previous level, actually, by playing away, the kids are playing one shot at a time. They are not really planning ahead, and they are not using the patterns compared to the level that we have just saw in orange court. Next one, actually, this is by the end of the under 10 period, and the best ones are able to play it already around the age of 9. I call it using full court. Obviously, here the kids have to adapt from actually orange court to much bigger court and using different balls that are bouncing faster and higher. So they will have to actually move much better. What is obvious for many coaches that when we move the kids from the orange to the green court, that very often the level of the game is not improving immediately. It first goes a bit down, especially by serving, because the net is much higher for them, the space much bigger. So this is a pretty big challenge for many of them. Nevertheless, everything what we actually did and prepared by this age of the 10 will be actually shown when they start to play the first, or be able to play first international category under 12, and will be transferred to under 14 category very soon. Around the age of 12, 13, the best players are able to, apart from using space to move the opponent, can also take the time away and hitting on the rise, or actually taking the ball early. Okay, here is on the rise, attacking, not always easy to win after that. But now we can see by the girls, especially, how they are already pretty offensive, hitting on the rise. And then you will see when the girl from the further side now will come to the net and take the ball from the air with the drive volleys in order to take time away from the opponent. Very important for their further development and success in tennis. One more point. And again, they don't let it bounce, they follow up and finish the point. Okay, so this is a quick overview of the level of the games that the players are moving on from cooperative rally at the age of 4, 5, up to the using space and time pressure in order to win points by the age of 12, 13. What is the outcome of the whole development process under 10? So now I would like to show you some kind of the ideas about this, what I called game development framework.
Sorry for the quick disturbing, but can you all check that your microphones are unmuted?
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
Thank you. Okay,
I will follow up. Okay. So I would like to say a few words about the framework behind this, what I will share with you today. Now, it's very important that the players are actually acquiring the skills and abilities for the, let's say, cooperative rally level of the game. But the development is not really always going like a line, continuous development. It's more like leaping from one level of the game to the other. And in order to be able to leap to the next level of the game, players have to accumulate the skills and abilities needed for the leap to the next level. So exactly this is what actually need to be prepared during staying on the current level. For the next level will be my main focus when I will talk about the skills today. So let's move on and try to identify these elements of the framework. So I will use this like a pretty basic or the first real level of the tennis game when the kids are able to play over the net in a small court, and I call it competitive rally. So the playing competencies at this stage are very simple. The player should be able to start the rally and by serving and returning. They should be able to play several shots in a row with intention to keep the ball in the court, and showing interest in handling emergencies, actually trying to react and bring the balls back when the player is not really aiming away from them, but it was just not accurate shot. But still they have to react and keep the rally going. Obviously, these very simple competencies are related to several skills. And the underlying skills are mental, technical, tactical, and motor. Obviously, at the same time, the players have to also think, or we as a coach have to think, which are the skills needed by the next level, playing away from the opponent. And that's what I called future skills for the future. Let me just move this down. Okay, okay. So this is a simple concept to define the level of the game, playing competencies for each level, and then related skills that have to be actually accumulated for acquiring that particular level, and prepare some skills that need to be that will be used in the future. So this is the huge matrix that you now see as a slide on your screen, and this information will be actually available at the Finnish Federation's website by the 15th or 16th of December. Because the IT people have some other things at the moment, they were not able to put it together and online by today's webinar. But this is the information I got from the Federation, and you will be able to use it in a few weeks' time. So what you see here on the screen is actually the outcome of the process between 5 and 12 years old. Actually, in each of the columns that I believe you cannot really read is the description of the standard of the playing competencies from competitive rally, cooperative rally, competitive rally, playing away from the opponent, using space, using full court, and using space and time pressure. By clicking on each of these columns here, you will be brought to the next level. And now I will click on this and you will see that I will bring you now to the competitive rally stage. I believe that now you can already read what is here in this slide. And in the first column, you can recognize that I put actually these 3 competencies shown in the previous slide, 2 slides ago, with able to start the rally, and I here defined with overarm throw and so on. Obviously, here we see mental, tactical, technical, motor, and skills for the future. I will leave you 1 minute. 1 minute, I will leave it to go through this, that you get some kind of the idea how many information are here inside and why we cannot really go through each of them. Harry, give me please the sign when it's enough time that you were able to go through this slide, okay?
Yes. Ready here.
Okay, so obviously many information in just this one and pretty basic level of the game, or at the beginning of the player's game development. And obviously the majority of information that you can find here in this table is about the technical skills, what is not a surprise, obviously, and also in the skills for the future. I believe already at that level, we have to think about the things and develop the skills that we will need by the next levels. Like red, here what you see coordination of both hands for serving is actually will be applied by the red court level by playing away. Then in the orange court, there we also have to prepare some skills and even some for the yellow court when they will be 11, 12. And I will come to these drills later on, so I will not talk about it at present because I want to share especially the drills, how to do it with the kids when I will show a few videos in a minute or two. What you find out actually bold and also marked with the blue color, I would call it the key drivers of the player's development. These are the most important skills at a particular level of the game. Let's move on. So this is the first level of the game that I already shared with you a few minutes ago, cooperative rally. And here are the playing competencies related to this level of the game. The first one is that player understands the purpose of the rally and tries to aim the ball to the target. Very often the kids at the age of 4 or 5 don't understand the value of cooperation and don't care if the ball goes to the partner. So this is one of the things that for sure we have to work on. And that they're able to start the rally with a rolling ball. Actually very simple. Now, already at that stage, we have to think which skills we need for the next level of the game that I call competitive rally. And you remember these girls that were playing over the net. So let's move. So first one, in this floor tennis, it's very important that already they understand the concept of playing where there is no opponent. So very simple, but actually also very important for the game development. Why to play to the opponent if we are playing for points? Then another thing is actually to develop throwing and catching skills in order that kids will be able to actually meet the ball with the racket after the bounce. As you all know, this is not such a simple task. And you see here the girl that is around, I think 6.5, and the guy there on the other side is 6. So it seems like that it's not very easy, and he does not even from which side to play, to throw from backhand or forehand. And by actually these down the line throws and cross-court throws, you develop actually the understanding that the ball will bounce differently if it's actually thrown diagonally or straight forward. Then the next skill is actually very, very important in my opinion, that already by that age you start to develop a right serving motion. And for this is I'm using very often and proposing to the people to start with a smash after the bounce. So I will go back to this to the start of this video and look at this now. Yeah. So actually, even at the age of 5, this guy here is 5 years old, and on the other side is 5.5 at the moment when we filmed this, and they were playing for 2 weeks with each other. Obviously, they have fun with the ball, but also a lot of problems. Nevertheless, they will not be able to hit smash winners, but developing the optimal arm movement is very important for developing of the serve in the future. Next one, overarm throw, another very important element for developing effective serving later. That is a few months, it's perhaps half a year later than they just started. Instead of 5.5, they are 6. And overarm throwing motion is one of the very important elements, especially for the girls, that you can see here is not very different skill. But if you don't develop it, especially with the girls, could be a very limiting factor in developing serving action. Another very important element to develop is related to the net game. And obviously here the kid that is a bit older demonstrating a drill in which he is catching one or the other ball that is let falling down by his partner. I think obviously that's a fun drill for developing reaction skills at very young age. Why it is falling down? Because then for the kids it's easier as the ball is just moving in one plane and is not actually moving to them and from bigger distance. So it is much easier to start with. Nevertheless, very quickly they are able to do it very, very differently. And you can see here the guy that is not even 6, 5.5, you remember? And he's now already connecting the moving with actually hitting the ball with volleys, but already away from the opponent or away from the coach. The idea here is actually from very beginning to teach the kids to direct the ball away from the opponent when they will come to the net. Namely, by coming to the net, all of us, even the kids, need to, let's call it, finish the point, but obviously not with the power, with the idea of aiming it away from the opponent. Nevertheless, they will not be able to use it now, but already when they play in a red court, you remember the good kids there? They need to have this understanding, and this is the way to start preparing that already 1 or 2 years earlier. By competitive rally stage of game development, we already mentioned the playing competencies. And the first one is that player value the score, able to start the rally with overarm throw, and show interest in hitting several shots in a row with control in order to win the point. Now, here, actually, I would like to emphasize this overarm throw in order to start. I believe it's very important because then you are practicing it in a match situation. And also here, I want to show you this value of what it means, value of competition. By reaction of this guy, you can realize that actually he understood that he lost the point. It's very important to, of course, educate kids what it means and to accept winning and losing, what is actually a big part of tennis sport. As in every few seconds, the kids are winning or losing, and that makes our sport for them pretty difficult to accept. Nevertheless, again, skills that we need to really also include in our players' development at this competitive rally stage are very important for the future. The one here that you can see is dissociation of upper and lower body movements. The problem that this guy has now is actually to first jump from the trampoline and then throw. What he's doing, he's jumping and throwing at the same time. Another very important skill that is crucial for developing a serve from the jump at the age of 10, 11, 12. And you remember this yellow box that you saw at competitive rally stage? That's exactly the drill for it. Another one, I call it drive volley after self-feed. At competitive rally stage, I believe it's very important to develop continuous racket motion that actually will actually be the base for creating, let's call it depth. I don't want to use the word power, but also acceleration toward the contact point that will actually lead to development of the spin. And we all know the spin is very important for developing control. This guy is just starting to learn that. He's around 6-year-old, so it's not perfect. His balance is not perfect, so it's not a perfect demonstration. It's actually a task that I believe we have to start doing here in order to prevent what very often happens, big backswings that kids are looking for in order to accelerate the racket instead of using the continuous swing and adding the shoulder rotations in the shot. Recognizing early ball flight. We said actually that by the next level, the kids will be confronted with the with actually running to the ball, because the opponent will hit away from them. At the same time, we have to then develop the skill that will enable them to cover the court. And for this, I will show you one drill, actually, by which the kid is asked to look at my racket. And you will see that my racket, I'm playing with a paddle racket, has two colors, of two faces with two colors, red and black. So I'm asking him to say to me with which color of my racket face I'm playing, black or red. Red is Crvena in Croatian and black is Crna. So I hope you can also hear it. Crna black, red, red, Crna black. So obviously now I'm fostering that he actually really look at my racket face and recognize my contact point, what will lead him to be able to develop what I call timed and functional split step. And that will be very important when he will move to the next level of the game, namely playing away from the opponent. At this stage, actually, there are following playing competencies to be acquired. Able to start a rally with overarm throw or forehand drive volley after self-feed. And here I would like to emphasize that it doesn't mean that we don't develop the full serving motion, but in the points, I don't think it's always very necessary to start with a regular overarm serve, because, sorry, can you please mute this?
I think that in that context,
we need that people mute the microphones. Okay, follow up. So basically, very often when
but then not so many so much on C. So
let's wait. Can you put if somebody, let's one more time, can you please unmute the microphone so it's easier to follow
I will also lower the volume on my computer so you will not hear it. Anyway, so just to come back to the serve, very often when we ask the kids to use overarm serve, like a regular serving in a small boxes, left and right, that I also put here on the floor, they will develop what I call pushy movements with elbow leaning in front, instead of actually having a free movement with racket acceleration that will develop good serving motion in the future. Then second playing competency is that when they are in favorable situation, when it's easy situation, let's call it like this, player is aiming away from the opponent. In emergency situation, player is able to stay in the point or by the time by hitting successfully toward the middle of the court. Middle of the court is the biggest target, so it's easier to hit it than cross court, obviously. At the net, they're also able to intercept the ball and keep the ball in play. Only the very best ones will already be able to direct the ball away from the opponent from the net. Can be, but not very many. Don't expect. It's not an easy task. But you remember that we started to teach them already at the age of 5, 6 by actually teaching them the volleys and directing the ball away from the coach, let's say, if you remember. So at this level, I think it's very important that kids understand the concept when to play safe or away from the opponent in order to make the right decisions. And here in this video, I'm for the first time explaining to this and the other two guys, actually the concept that basically what is so simple, when he has to catch the ball inside this line, it's easy because he doesn't need to run a lot. But if he has to run to the corner, it's more difficult to catch it. On the other side, I also trying to explain them that obviously what they think is easier if they're aiming for the big target in the middle or smaller targets in the corners. And you can believe me that even very young kids understand it very easy. So here actually he is now showing me that he understood, and his task is without the racket and the ball, what is more difficult to control, to throw the football ball according to this concept from the corners to the middle and from the middle to the corners. This guy is around 7 years old. This one here is younger. It's around 6 and I think 6.5. No, 7. Sorry, he was also 7. The other guy is half a year older, and he has no problem to show that he understood the concept. time. He's throwing away from the middle. He shows that he understands the idea. But you will see now by the following kid, he will have a problem. He's coming now in a second. Okay, coming. So you see this kid here is another, I would say, half year younger, but I would say that he's not mature. And now you will see by looking at his throwings that actually he's showing that for him, this concept is still too difficult. Yes, if there would be a Martina Hingis on the other side, probably she would do it much easier at much even younger stage than the guys we saw before. But by this guy, you can see that he's not really aiming according to the concept. He's just throwing the ball over the net. It's nothing special. What I want to say here that sometimes we have to wait for the kid. You see how he's actually bouncing to the ball instead of running and waiting that he gets mature, but it happens very quickly. This guy, after 3 months, was able to do it without any problems and understood the whole concept clearly. Okay, so which are the skills for the future that we need to work on at this playing away stage? So first of all, that's a split step, and in order to cover the court. And here I would like to show you now when he's tossing, you can already recognize that he's applying without being taught just by this situation, so-called asymmetric split step, that he's actually landing first with the foot further away from the running direction and then moving to the ball. Just few more examples. Throwing, you see now how he actually landed with opposite foot and run to the ball in order to catch it. Another idea is to put the kids on the court, and one is playing, the other is throwing the balls to the partner. And actually he should say hop when actually the opponent actually is hitting the ball. Look at the guy closer to us. Hop. Hop. Hop, sorry. You see now? He saw before the ball came over the net, where is the direction? And we can see by looking at his left foot that he understood that he will have to run to the right, and he already opened his right foot and is ready to move in that direction. So that's for me a very important skill, because if the players are not able really to move well and cover the court, they will never be in a good balance by hitting. And because of that, timed split step is one of the key skills, especially before moving to the orange court, where they will have to cover much bigger space. Apart from this, also further development of the serving skills are very important. And here we can see actually the guy who is actually throwing from the can. Very nicely drilled. Look at his right arm, how he's nicely using the shoulder rotation to create more elastic energy in the shoulder before throwing upwards, and including also this, what we call internal rotation in the throwing motion. A lot of fun, yeah, for the kids through such drills. Not always simple, and it's not always successful, obviously, yeah. Oh, much better one. Okay, so we move on. So this one is very important to develop the right, I would call it throwing motion upwards with the usage of internal rotation of the upper arm for the serve. At the same time, we are asking them to serve down. Why it's important? It's important because especially when the net is lower than the, let's call it regular net height, I would say around 50% of the regular red court net height, enable the player to actually take the, I would call it more close racket face with a more continental grip. Because when you are hitting down, then it's actually more difficult if you have extreme forehand grip. This guy has a little bit of forehand grip, but not very extreme. And you see that because of that, his ball also needs to be longer. And I believe that it's very important to use this like what I call big target. Low net, big target in order to enable swing development and good rhythm for the serve. Rushing to hit the balls in the small targets that will be here, yeah, like a service boxes, very often can bring very different and I would say different development of pushing instead of swinging the racket throughout the stroke. Also very important is to develop this active, what I call active thinking. So here I ask the kids to actually throw with the arm in one corner and then to follow with the second shot in the open corner. So look at here one more time. So he's throwing the ball with arm, yeah, to one corner. And then with the second shot, aiming to the other corner. Developing this, let's go back. Developing this, what I call active thinking, I believe is very important. And here what they are actually practicing is the most used serving pattern, serving wide and second shot to the open space. So I feel that it's very important to develop this active thinking and the attitude that serve is advantage instead of just popping in the serve and starting the rally. Using open space is already, as we said, very can be already very high level for the game development, and the best kids are playing, as we could see with these two guys, very high. So there are several playing competencies that they are adding at this stage of game development. So despite losing 3 or more games in a row, player still tries to win next point or the game. I believe this is a very important thing because we all know that in tennis there are ups and downs, and actually showing this, I would call it mental resilience, and nurturing it is very important from very young age. Player is mostly about 70% of the time, it's a proposed number, hitting the second shot to the open court when opponents, let's say, return, is allowing it. So he understands this principle actually of open court and applies in a bigger court. During the match player is appropriately applying the concept from the middle to the corners and from the corners to the middle. If you remember, we actually introduced this concept in the previous stage by playing away, but now the players can actually really use it in order to avoid unforced errors when they are really playing in the bigger court. So I believe this is a very simple but basic and at the same time fundamental concept that the kids can use in order to avoid making many tactical mistakes and decisions when to play cross courts, down the lines, and this kind of stuff. In emergency situation, player is able to stay in the point and buy time by hitting successfully toward the middle or cross court with the backspin. Of course, understanding that through height he wins more time is a very important concept that kids, I would not say immediately understand, especially not that I would call it average one. The very talented, they will get it very easy, intuitively. When in the position to control the ball, player is aiming the volleys away from the opponent. Here, of course, we already expect that they can apply what we started to develop 3-4 years ago. If you remember the first videos with a 5-year-old kid directing the ball away. And this is what I want to emphasize here, is this preparation of future skills at the right time. Because if you start to do it now, of course, he will need much more time to get it and to include it in his game. Now, I would like to use one video of the good friend of mine from Austria, who prepared for the worldwide conference about play and stay some 8 years ago in London, in which he is actually giving reasons why to stay longer and use more actually orange court in developing players' game. So take a look in the following video.
I'm a real wild one, wild one, wild one, wild one.
So if you look it down in the screen, actually you will see that by this game, the time between the serve and return was around 0.85 seconds. At ATP level, it's around 0.81. And by research, they know that in average, actually it's around 1.1 second in orange, 1.4 in green, and 1.3 in yellow. What it means that actually that court is much more closer to the really professional reaction time. And you look at the serving points won. At this match was 66%, at ATP 68.5, but when you look down, in orange court, in average, the kids are scoring 60% or winning 60% after first serve, 52 in green and 53 in yellow. So again, it's closer to the, I would call it ATP game. Success of the net approaches, again, around 52% for these kids, 67 for the ATP. But when you look at the numbers in the bottom row, it's around 40 or even less percent in orange, well, it's much better, but 32 actually only in the green court. It's obvious why, because the kids are not much bigger, but they have to cover much bigger court, and because of that, it's more difficult. By the ground strokes, the time between the shots by this match was around 1.5 seconds. At the ATP level is 1.4 seconds. And in average, the research shows that in orange court, the kids are having around 1.7 seconds and almost 2 seconds in green court and 1.8 in I'm trying to admit one more guy who is here. Okay, I will admit him. Okay. And this is actually the last fact here that we are seeing in this video. So actually in orange court compared to the green court, what we are fostering are actually the available times and success rates that are more close to the, let's call more close to the professional game than when we are moving quickly to the green court because of the space and the time that the kids have. At this stage also, it's important, of course, to work on the skills that we will need in the future. So which are the key skills in the future to be developed? Here now, you remember this guy that was not able to jump and then throw from the trampoline? Now he was able to do that, to jump, catch, and throw. And this is exactly the drill that they need to develop well. The skill they need to develop in order to include jump into the serving motion. See, all of them can do that pretty well. And it's very important, but still when they are trying to jump and throw, you will see by the next one, this guy is pretty good, but look at this one, that looks good in the previous drill. Actually, he doesn't jump, sorry. He doesn't jump, he actually is just throwing instead of first jump and then throw, what is actually demonstrated by the young guy in green shirt. I will to stop him. This is not so good, but look at this guy, what he is doing now. You see now? Okay, I will go a little bit back. You see, this is a good example where he first jumped, he used his leg drive, and when he's in the air, he's ready to throw. And actually, this is very important coordination, actually skill for actually entering the, including the leg drive in an efficient way in serving motion. Okay, so now we are moving to the next one. Very important also at that stage of the development, at the age of 8, 9, I think is to improve and work on core and joint stability. This will be very important for the kids when they will be then running to the ball in order to create and maintain the stable position during the shot. Obviously, during the junior period, they will improve it and they will work on it a lot. They will work with medicine balls, weights, and many other things in order to further develop this very important skill for the modern game. Also, one more element here I would like to emphasize, and that's sideways throwing motion as what I call the movement pattern for the modern forehand. Look at this guy, yeah? And now compare this movement with the other guys from the same group. They cannot really create this, what we like to call a whipping motion of the arm. He's trying to get the ball at the shoulder height, so not so easy to throw from the side as it looks like. And look at this guy. For him, it was really tough. And that was in June this year. And for him, at that time, was very, very difficult to even get the idea of the motion because he's using the whole arm. He doesn't really make us throwing. What he's using is a swinging motion of the arm. Now, just after a few months, that was at the beginning of September. Okay, I will take two of them. Look at the guy in orange. He's now throwing. Yeah. And now the guy closer to us in white, in the white shirt here. Look at how his motion now looks like. Look at this preparation. I would say it's fantastic preparation already for the much older players for actually a forehand stroke. Look at this leading with elbow, almost like a Federer, yeah? Without actually asking them to do that in the stroke. That's very important. Some of them will actually include it in the strokes earlier, some a bit later. That will also develop on their strength development and maturation. By the following actually video, you can see now by this guy how he was able to include it in his stroke. Not perfect, but he's already using a little bit, but that's not the same throwing motion. And for me, it's very important to emphasize that because by developing these movement patterns, we don't ask the kids to immediately apply it in the strokes. Because if you would teach them, probably all of them would lose a lot of control. So it's about preparation. So when they mature, they will have the motor pattern that will actually enable them to develop optimal racket speed. The last one is using full court stage, and the playing competencies here that the players are adding to the ones that are previously acquired are, first of all, understanding of the opponent's weakness. We would like to see here that the player is actually understanding what is opponent's weakness and play more shots to that side. At that age, very often that's a backhand side. After successful first serve or returning second serve, player is able to recognize opponent's movement and play behind the opponent. Wrong footing and including this data about the opponent in opponent movement, decision making, I think is pretty important because this starts to add more variability to players' decision making. During the match play, player is applying appropriate shots by respecting the quality of incoming ball and own position. Now, obviously, when the ball is very deep, player will actually not go for the risky shots. He will go more toward the middle with the depth. When he's able to then also come into the court, he will understand the different angles and will be able to use them. Handle emergencies, actually space pressure when they are running to the ball wide, let's say. They recognize when to stay in the point by defending or neutralizing with, let's say, deep shots. When they're in favorable position, player is choosing the right shot, passing or lob when playing against the net player. So here we would like him also to take into account the opponent's position, and when they are further from the net to play passing shots, and when the opponent comes closer to the net to apply the lob as a right shot. Now, because of this, what I was said before, actually, that now in green court, they have to cover much bigger space. There is very, very important skill that we need to work on by moving from orange to green is to run away from and toward the ball. The more difficult thing for most of the kids is to run away backwards. And I would like you to now observe the two kids that you will see in this video. The one here in green, short ball. Now when he's hitting, actually it's very interesting to see that actually he's in a good stable position. So he created the right distance from the ball by moving backwards. He's not perfect. He's just developing. That was now in September, actually. And you will see something very interesting now when the other guy will come in. Actually, this other guy is, you will see, a quicker. He's a better mover. They're around the same age. The smaller one is actually older, 2-3 months, I believe. Whoop. Okay. I have to reshare my screen. I don't know why technology was letting us down a little bit. Please, I'm coming back. It's not. What is it? Stop sharing. Why? Okay. It seems that my PowerPoint went. I have to reopen my PowerPoint. Please wait for a minute. It happens, but we were very lucky until now. I will go down. Okay, that's another story. Don't save. Oof, okay, don't worry. We will be back in a minute and finish on time. Okay, I'm going down. I have to find my last slide. Okay, we are here. Okay, and I'm now sharing the screen with you. Okay, we are back on track, I believe.
Yes, it's
Sorry for this, but these are technical problems that are part of the webinars sometimes. So one more time, you see the guy here, and look at now when he's moving backwards, he really is able to achieve the right distance, to create right distance for stable shot after moving backwards. And what we often see by the kids that will be demonstrated badly by the other guy is that actually by hitting, now they are falling away from the shot. And I believe this skill is very important to be developed by moving from orange to green court. So look at now, when he's hitting, he's not stable. And now especially, you see that? And actually he's quicker than the other guy. I think the only reason why he's not showing the same skill is because he was not practicing that. He's much better at moving forward, making more stable situation moving forward. But actually when he's moving backwards, you see now when he's hitting, he basically is not at the right distance from the ball after running backwards. And I believe this is very important skill to work on when you are moving from orange to green court. Another element that they can add at this stage, and this will be really for, I would call it more talented players, they are able from maturation point of view to understand the concept of using own position and playing accordingly. So what they need to understand is, of course, what we all know, when you are further away from the baseline, you have much narrower angle compared when you are around the baseline or inside the court. I don't have a drill for this that I film with the kids, but imagine that you give them, after creating understanding, different targets according to their position, and they start to actually then include it in their game. Another element that is very important is to understand actually the opponent's contact point quality. And there is one drill here that I took from Tennis Canada, from a colleague of mine, Wayne Elderton. And I will share it now with you. I will make it more louder and he will explain the drill for you.
You're playing someone and there's a bubble around their upper body. We call this the trouble bubble. If you can hit a ball to someone and they're inside that bubble, they're gonna hit a solid shot. If they're outside the bubble, that's gonna mean that they're in trouble. You can take advantage. If you pierce the bubble and jam them, that's going to be tough as well. If you get them to hit below the bubble, that's going to be difficult for them. And if you can get them to hit above the bubble, all those are going to put them in trouble when you're playing. And if you can see that trouble, you can take advantage right away.
In the trouble bubble drill, players play points starting with a serve or a ground stroke. The goal is to identify a breakdown in your opponent's impact, like on this low shot. If you have taken your opponent out of their bubble, yell out loud, trouble, and then take control of the point. During the point, you're constantly imagining the bubble around your opponent and seeing if they are jammed or stretched wide, high, or low. While playing, practice the shots that will create these opportunities for you.
Okay, so this additional example where we can help players to make a better decision making and actually how to play smarter. Why? Because very often at the age of 10, 9, 10, when they are moving to the green court, actually they don't really consider the quality of opponent contact points. And very often after very good own shot, they don't react. And when opponent is just blocking the ball back, it's creating a winner, instead of the player anticipating an easy shot for them and move inside the court. Same is with the previous example of using own position in order to actually use the possible angles according to the own position in relation to the baseline. So these things are, in my opinion, very important to be developed in order to help players to play more efficiently in a full court. Now, at the same time, I will just mention two very important skills for the future that they need to add in order to reach the level that we have been finishing under 12 with the video under 12 that I show at the beginning of my presentation that I called using space and time pressure. So the first one is the ability to use smash after the bounce. Why? Because the players at that age very often defend with high balls. And if you are able to smash such ball, just to bring it into the court, you can keep your offensive attitude, offensive thinking. And I believe it's very important, but also at the same time, that's a great drill for developing good serving motion. And as you can see that they are not so good in perhaps or in a baseline strokes, as we would expect it, because this smash after the bounce is usually developed much, much later by the players. It depends now what you want to emphasize at which stage and how much you want to prepare the skills for the future, what I call. And another one is a drive volley from the midcourt that they will be should be able to use under 12. You see here very simple drill where they start with a drive volley cross court after the coach hand feed, and then playing each one shot and playing a point against the third guy on the other side. One more, cross court, drive volley, and playing the game. Okay, so we are coming to the end, and I believe I was pretty precise. Now it's turning to be 11 o'clock. And here with the last slide, I would like to remind you on this whole concept about the game development pathway, about different stages of the game development and the playing competencies that are defining each stage, together with related skills needed for each stage and skills that we need to develop for the next levels of the game. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will have a few minutes for your questions, and I hope I can answer all of them. Harry, please take over.
Thanks a lot for this. This was very, very good presentations, and hopefully this was helpful for you all. Playing competencies and this matrix will be ready in the Federation websites 16th of December. And we will send this presentation for all the participants today. So from my side, have a nice day for all, and let's keep in touch. And hopefully, as I said, this was helpful for you all.
Okay. So no questions, Harry, for today?
No questions. We are
Okay.
we are ready to end the seminar. So.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Thanks a lot, and have a nice day for all.